Recently in my newsletter, I wrote a little bit about how I felt coming back to Barbados after my time in the US. Now, the circumstances under which I came back to Barbados were 100% out of my hands. The events of 2020 and just the way that everything transpired meant that I was essentially trapped in Barbados. And since then, I was really forced to look at myself and come to grips with what had happened. In all honesty, coming back to my island made me feel like a failure. And it's kind of weird to think that coming home to your family, to the place where you know and love, and to potentially the place where you should be given the most love and given the most appreciation, someone would feel like a failure coming back there. But for me, for so long, my goal was always to try to travel abroad in search of quote unquote greener pastures. And so coming back to Barbados has been a very tough, honestly, mental shift for me, coming to grips with the reality of what life is here, but getting to a place of comfort in knowing that Barbados doesn't need to be the US. It doesn't need to be super productive. It doesn't need to be a place where you have, amazing career progression or whatever. It's not built for that. And so just accepting the purpose and the reasons and the beautiful things behind Barbados and coming to grips with the fact that that's the reality of what it is. Now, this is obviously much easier said than done as an athlete, someone with professional aspirations coming back here. And even this year, engaging in the local league, it was so tough for me in the beginning, really forcing myself to try to play at my level, really trying to force the people around me to see the light and to try to, go above and beyond what they personally are capable of. And what I realized is that I just ended up tiring out my teammates and tiring out myself. I was so emotionally and just physically exhausted by not just giving my best, but then trying to extract value from everyone around me. And in the end, I had to come to grips with the fact that that is not the scenario that they signed up for. That's not the reality of the league. And so I don't want to say I had to drop my performances, but I definitely had to adapt my style of play to meet the environments with which I was surrounded. And you hear the gurus and the personal development people talk about it all the time, about the fact that your environment is so important for your potential aptitude. And it's true. Like, I've seen that you don't raise people to your level. You assimilate to the level that's around you. So this has just been my reality for a little bit, and I just wanted to share because I've had some conversations with quite a few people who said that they felt similar things when they had to potentially return home to Barbados or return to whatever their homeland is. And fortunately, I'm finally in a place now where I can see that there is a lot of opportunity in Barbados, for instance, but the opportunities are fewer, and you have to be, in my personal opinion, a lot more strategic about how you go about forming alliances and how you go about trying to create and capture opportunity in such a small and some might say competitive landscape. But I do think that these are amazing lessons that I've been able to take on at such a young age. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I never want to potentially make a move. I don't want to try to get myself into the most competitive and potentially advantageous positions for me to advance in my career, because the things that I want to do and the things that I'm passionate about aren't necessarily valued. There isn't necessarily a well-developed landscape for those pursuits in Barbados. But potentially the biggest thing that I learned from this phase of my life is that it doesn't help to think so linearly about every single thing. It's not either or, it's usually an and scenario. Yes, you can live in Barbados and still try to forge some type of travel to other places. Yes, you can live in Barbados and still try to work with international brands. Yes, you can be an athlete and still try to become a digital marketer. It's really opened up my mental to a bigger sphere. This experience has really helped me to expand my thinking, come back to a place of humility, and really get back to that place of really realizing that you need to use whatever resources you have in front of you to try to create opportunity, to try to create whatever the future is that you want to see for yourself. So yes, as I mentioned, I was having some very valuable conversations about this with some people in my community, and I would love to continue those conversations in the comment section below. Highly recommend that you check out the newsletter piece that I wrote about this experience. I think it sums it up even a little bit better than I was able to speak. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe.